The doors of the transit shuttle hissed shut behind me, and every seat in sight was already taken. I gripped the handle of my travel bag and scanned the rows. Aliens of every shape filled the cabin. Tall ones with silver skin, small ones with clicking mandibles, tall insectoid diplomats wrapped in ceremonial cloth. Not one of them looked at me. Not one of them moved their bag from the empty seat beside them. My name is Daniel Cole, and I was the only human on this shuttle heading toward the Concord Assembly Station. Humanity had joined the wider galaxy only 3 years ago, and most of these beings still treated us like an afterthought, a species that had been let in through the back door. The shuttle lurched forward. I grabbed a railing to keep my balance, and a low murmur of amusement moved through the cabin. Someone whispered a word in a language I did not know, but I understood the tone. Mockery needs no translation. I kept walking down the aisle, searching for even a strip of open space where I could stand without being in anyone's way. My shoulder brushed against a passenger with 4 arms, and he pulled his sleeve away as if my touch might stain it. Then I saw her. At the far end of the cabin sat a woman with pale blue skin and eyes the color of deep water. She wore a dark violet robe stitched with silver thread, and a thin circlet rested on her brow. 2 guards stood near her, tall and silent, their hands resting on weapons at their hips. Every other passenger gave her space, a full row of empty seats around her like an invisible wall. I looked away quickly. The last thing I needed was to be accused of staring at royalty. I found a corner near the back where I could stand, gripping the rail, trying to ignore the stares. The shuttle picked up speed, gliding through the dark toward the station lights in the distance. I closed my eyes for a moment, just wanting the ride to end quietly. A voice cut through the hum of the engines. "You, come here." I opened my eyes. The blue-skinned woman was looking directly at me, her hand raised, one finger pointing toward the empty seat beside her. I froze. Around me, the murmurs stopped. Every head in the cabin turned. "Me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, you," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried across the entire shuttle without effort. "There is an empty seat here. You have been standing for the last 10 minutes while half this cabin pretends not to notice." I hesitated, unsure if this was some kind of trap, a test, or simply cruelty dressed as kindness. But her eyes held nothing but patience, so I walked forward, past rows of passengers who leaned away as though I carried something contagious. When I reached her row, one of her guards stepped forward, his hand tightening slightly on his weapon. "Let him sit," she said, not even looking at the guard. I gave the order. I lowered myself into the seat beside her, my bag pressed against my knees, my back straight, unsure of what to do with my hands. "Thank you," I said quietly. "You did not ask for help," she said, studying me. "You did not complain. You simply kept looking for a place to stand where you would bother no one. That is rare, even among my own people." I did not know how to respond, so I said nothing. "My name is Vera," she said. "I am the youngest daughter of the ruling house of Thrinil, and you are human." "Daniel," I said. "Daniel Cole." "Daniel Cole," she repeated, as if testing the shape of the words. "Tell me, Daniel, why did no one offer you a seat before I did?" I glanced around the cabin. Several passengers quickly looked away, pretending to study their hands or the walls. "I think some people are still getting used to us being here," I said carefully. "That is a generous way of describing what I saw," Vera said. Her voice dropped lower, but it still held an edge that made the nearby passengers sit a little straighter. "I watched you walk past 12 open laps and folded arms. I watched beings move their belongings just to make sure you understood you were not welcome beside them." A passenger a few rows ahead, a broad-shouldered noble with ridged skin and gold rings on his fingers, turned in his seat. "Princess Vera," he said, his tone dripping with false respect. "Surely you do not mean to seat one of them beside you. It reflects poorly on the House of Thrinil." The cabin went quiet. I felt my chest tighten, waiting for Vera to reconsider, to send me back to the corner where I belonged in his eyes. Instead, she turned toward him slowly. "Lord Kaez," she said, "tell me, when the transport doors opened and everyone rushed to claim 2 seats each for their bags and cloaks, where were you sitting?" "That is not the point," Kaez said, his jaw tightening. "It is exactly the point," Vera said. "You claimed space for your belongings before a living being had a place to sit, and you call his presence beside me the poor reflection." Kaez's mouth opened, then closed. He turned back around without another word, his ears darkening with what I could only guess was embarrassment. I sat very still, trying not to smile, trying not to let anything show on my face that might make this worse, but something in my chest loosened just slightly. You did not need me to defend you, Vera said quietly, turning back to me. I watched your face when he spoke. You did not flinch. You did not look away in shame, you simply waited. There was nothing to gain by arguing with him, I said. He already decided what he thinks of me before I said a word. Many people are like that, Vera said. They decide first, then spend the rest of their lives finding reasons to be right. It is exhausting to watch. The shuttle rumbled gently as it adjusted course, the station now visible through the wide viewport, a ring of light suspended in the black. Can I ask you something? I said. You may. Why did you really pull me over here? There were dozens of empty seats near the front. You did not need to make a scene. Vera studied me for a long moment, her watercolored eyes narrowing slightly, not with suspicion, but with thought. My grandmother once told me that the strength of a person is not shown when they are given power, she said. It is shown in how they carry themselves when everyone around them tries to take even the smallest thing away, like a place to stand. She glanced toward the guards near her, both still and silent, trained since childhood to never show weakness, never show doubt. My guards have been taught to endure pain without sound, she continued, but I do not know if either of them could have endured what you endured for those 10 minutes, walking through open mockery with steady shoulders and a quiet mouth. That is a different kind of strength. One I do not see often. I did not know what to say to that, so I looked down at my hands resting on my bag. We are not used to being looked at as anything more than a mistake the galaxy is slowly correcting, I said honestly, so we learn to keep walking. That is the very reason my family has argued for your people's place among the Concord, Vera said. Not because you are the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced, but because you endure, and you build, and you do not break, even when the whole room decides you should. Lord Kaez shifted in his seat ahead of us, clearly listening, though he kept his eyes fixed forward. There are many in this cabin, Vera said, raising her voice just enough for it to carry, who believe strength is loud, who believe it announces itself with weapons and titles and empty seats claimed before anyone arrives. But real strength is often quiet. It sits, it waits, and it does not need permission to be respected. The cabin remained silent, but I noticed something shift in the air, a discomfort among the passengers who had turned away from me earlier, now unwilling to meet Vera's gaze, or mine. The shuttle began its descent toward the station, lights sweeping across the windows as the docking clamps engaged with a soft mechanical hum. When we land, Vera said, turning to me one final time, you will walk beside me through the arrival hall, not behind, not to the side, beside me. Why? I asked. Because every noble and diplomat in that hall will see it, she said, and they will understand that the House of Threnal does not measure worth by the shape of a person's skin or the number of arms they carry. It measures worth by the strength of their spirit. I felt something rise in my chest, something between disbelief and quiet pride, but I only nodded. The shuttle came to a gentle stop. The doors opened with a soft hiss, and the noise of the station rushed in, distant voices, footsteps, the hum of 1,000 different lives crossing paths in one place. Vera rose first, straightening her robe, and extended her hand toward me, not as a command, but as an invitation. I took it and stood. Together we walked out into the arrival hall, past nobles who had ignored me only minutes earlier, past guards who straightened at her approach, past a galaxy that had decided long ago what it thought of humanity. I did not walk behind her. I walked beside her. And for the first time since stepping onto that shuttle, I did not feel like a mistake the galaxy was still trying to correct. I felt like I belonged,